This is the Italian Real Estate Podcast, here to help you with the ins and outs and basics of Italian real estate, presented by ItalianRealEstateLawyers.com. Hello there and welcome to another episode of the Italian Real Estate Podcast, presented by ItalianRealEstateLawyers.com. Of course, we are back at it again with Italian attorney Marco Permunian. How are you doing, man?
Good, how are you?
I am doing great, thank you. Glad to hear that you're doing well also. And today, we wanted to talk about a new, well, not a new village, but a village that has recently come onto the scene as offering an incentive to be able to come and live there in the hopes of bringing back population to this place. But Marco, let's just quickly jump into this little village called Presicce Acquarica. And what is it that it looks like they're offering? Have things been finalized yet? What's the situation right now?
So it's been all over the news for the past weeks, and it seems like this town is joining several other towns that have been offering houses at €1 or for a very low amount, or that have been offering incentives to relocate to those towns. And this specific project is being finalized, so we're not sure yet what the details will be. But it seems like the town is prepared to offer a sum of money, which will be up to €30,000 for people who want to relocate to that town and buy a house. And it looks as though the €30,000 will be given as a subsidy to be used towards the purchase of the property itself or the renovation of the property. So, as a matter of fact, the intention is to bring back population to the town and to renovate houses that have been abandoned and that have been left empty for several years. And we've talked about this briefly, but in the recent years, people who were living in the southern regions of Italy have been moving to maybe the north of Italy or foreign countries, or at the very least, they've been moving to some major towns where they can find better job opportunities. Whereas these towns where they were coming from have been left basically with less population. So the goal of these projects have been to repopulate this area that have seen a lot of people leaving to go live in northern Italy or other towns or other parts of the country, or even other foreign countries.
Yeah, that makes sense. And a lot of these projects end up having that goal in mind. I mean, it does make sense why there were people who left there, at least from a geographic standpoint. If you look at where it is on the map, further south than Lecce, on the heel of the boot of Italy, and the spike of the boot that is there. And so even if you wanted to get from this village to, or this town to the city of Lecce, according to Google Maps, it looked as though it might take about 56 minutes or just under an hour to get from one place to the other. So that makes me question about access to services and so on. But we can get into maybe that either later or in another episode. But a quick question for you. Of course, with these types of projects, they're usually done with some intention about the types of properties available. So far, has there been something spoken about in regards to this project?
Yeah, so it seems like it only works with regard to properties that have been built before 1991, and there are also other requirements. I mean, it seems like there will be other requirements, like one of them will be taking up residency in town. So not only you will have to probably purchase this property and potentially renovate it, but you will have to physically move to the town and take up residency. And we've talked about this in many videos, but the acquisition of a property itself in Italy doesn't give you automatically the right to reside in Italy. It may facilitate it, but you still would have to apply for a visa. For example, the elective residency visa is a very popular visa among retired people. And this, of course, if you don't hold Italian citizenship or dual citizenship, in which case a visa is not required. They didn't mention other requirements that were mentioned, for example, in other projects like these, where you had to also, for example, start a business within the a specific category of businesses that the local government wanted people who participate in these projects to start. So it seems like taking up residency and buying a house and potentially renovating it are at this time the only requirements that we're seeing.
Very interesting. And just to bring it back, just one little drop, you mentioned about residency in Italy. This is something, of course, that we've talked about in other episodes. But would you mind doing a quick rundown of how residency works? Because also there's, I think, a few other steps to take into consideration, like you mentioned about the visa. But then on top of the visa, there's also the residency permit, or the permission of stay, rather. And then on top of that, there's all of these various steps. It's not just about only getting a visa or only getting residency. It's all a part of a greater process.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So the way it works in Italy is that if you do not hold dual citizenship or Italian citizenship, you have to apply for a visa to be able to enter Italy as a visa holder. Otherwise, you can only enter Italy as a tourist, which means you can only stay for 90 days at a time, which doesn't allow you to formally establish residency in Italy. So to formally establish residency in an Italian municipality, you do need to apply for a visa, again, if you don't hold dual citizenship. And then once the visa is granted and you arrive in Italy, you also have to apply for a residency permit through the local immigration office, which is called Questura, the local police station, the department that deals with immigrants. So based on your entry visa, they will grant a residency permit for the same purpose. So if you got an elective residency visa, which was granted by the consulate, then you will get an elective residency permit from the Italian Questura, and you have to apply for the permit within 8 days from your arrival. So while the visa allows you to enter the country, the residency permit allows you to remain in the country and to take up residency. So only as a residency permit holder, you can apply for legal residency in an Italian town, which seems to be, again, one of the requirements in this case.
And so also, just to maybe quickly clarify, you mentioned about dual citizens, Italian citizens, or individuals who would have to apply for a visa. What would be the situation for maybe an EU citizen coming to Italy? What would they need to do to be able to register for residency in Italy?
That's a very interesting question. And of course, I'm glad you asked that, because before I was referring to non-EU citizens. So if you are an EU citizen, so a citizen of another country of the European Union, different from Italy, you do not need a visa or a residency permit to take up residency in Italy. So you can file your application with the town hall, with the residency office, as soon as you arrive in Italy, if your intention is to stay for longer than 90 days, and they will just register you as a resident as long as you provide proof that you have an income, which could be a job, it could be income earned in your home country. So you do need to provide proof of income, and you need to have a valid passport, and you need to provide a medical insurance in the case you're going to be supporting yourself with income coming from your home country. Because only if you work or attend school in Italy, you can register as an EU citizen with the Italian healthcare system. Otherwise, you will need a health insurance. But with that being said, it's much easier for EU citizens to apply for residency in an Italian municipality, because in the European Union, European citizens are free to move and relocate from one country to another without needing any visa or residency permits.
Well, thank you for explaining and getting into that a bit more. But also another question about like the types of properties and what's going on there. Like, what are these properties that might be available? What kind of potential condition would they be in? And what else is going on in this area? Because from what it seems as though is Presicce Acquarica, excuse me, forgive me on that one, have been merged villages. They're not actually just one place, but they've actually kind of grown into each other. Would you maybe be able to talk about some of these topics as well?
Yeah, it seems like these properties that will be offered are located in the historic part of the city, which is not where the majority of the population lives. It seems like the majority of the population lives outside of this area, which has been revitalized. And also, it's interesting that the mayor said that thanks to a recent merger with the city nearby, which is where the name come from, Presicce Acquarica, it's basically the name of the two towns which merged. Well, now the population of the two towns combined together in one single town is nearly 10,000 individuals, which allows them to receive more funds from the central government. And according to the mayor, these funds will be used to revitalize the historic center even more. So not only the mayor is trying to incentivize the purchase of these old abandoned houses by foreigners, but also he's trying to revitalize the whole town and is trying to offer more services to new residents. And to go back to your question regarding what type of properties are there to be purchased, and I think people can expect to pay about maybe $25,000 to $30,000 for a small one or maybe two bedroom apartments, but anyway, like a 50 maybe square meters apartment, which is a popular size in Italy for an apartment. And it's probably an apartment that can host maybe one family, maybe a couple, maybe one little child. But that's what people should expect to pay for such an apartment in this area. And this town is also incentivizing the repopulation by offering other programs. For example, incentives for businesses or tax incentives, or something that the mayor announced, baby bonuses. So they're planning on giving €1,000 for every newborn in town.
That's interesting. So that actually makes me wonder, like some places, I believe in Molise, they had one of the requirements for their program that they were running there was that it was for people between a certain age. So I almost wonder if this might have any type of age requirement attached to it. Of course, we don't have that information yet. And if those who are listening or watching in would be interested in more information, once those details are finalized, let us know in the comment section on YouTube, and we can get back to this subject once there's more information on that. But I do start wondering what kind of requirements will be placed on there. I mean, even in another place that we saw, that it was required, maybe actually it was Molly's as well, now that I think about it, that it was required to have your legality in Italy already figured out, not attached to the program itself, that it was a separate thing, that you already had to have your status figured out for Italy. So I do wonder about that as well. But then also, especially because of the €1,000 per baby, I mean, it's a great little incentive. Not that in the total course of a child's life that it'll make the difference, but it is very interesting to hear that they are talking about that sort of bonus for having children. There are other countries in the world which do incentivize their citizens to have children, and it's not necessarily something that happens around the whole country, as far as I'm aware at least. But in this type of place where they were offering that financial incentive to populate the place, I do find that particular aspect fascinating. Not just saying, hey, come live here. It's like, say, hey, let's have some new people here as well too, some full-time residents. But anyway, Monaco, I think this is going to be a great place to wrap up this episode. So of course, if anybody is interested in getting in contact with you and your team, how can they reach out to you guys?
People can contact us through our website, italianrealestatelawyers.com. And of course, for people who are interested in this program, they can keep an eye on the website, the official website of the town, where the town itself will release information about this program as soon as the last details will be finalized by the local government.
I assume also that at some point that information will also be available on your social media as well. So I would definitely advise, regardless, that it is important to follow Italian Real Estate Lawyers on Facebook and Instagram as well. But not only just there, but also to make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast, both on YouTube as well as the audio only edition, so that you can stay up to date. And of course, if you're interested in more information about life abroad, or living abroad as a dual citizen expat, be sure to come over to my YouTube channel and audio podcast, youtube.com/Rafael Di Furia, or you can search for Not Your Average Globetrotter, and you should be able to find me on a lot of the internet for my project. And of course, this has been another episode of the Italian Real Estate Podcast presented by ItalianRealEstatelawyers.com. We have been here with Italian attorney Marco Permunian, and I am Rafael Di Furia. Stay safe and healthy out there, and we will see you all next time. Later.
Thank you.